Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the truth to finding your calling and how you unlock your purpose through action. Because have you ever felt like maybe you're just waiting to discover what it is you're supposed to be doing in life? What's that true potential for you? Like one day, maybe if you're patient enough, your calling is just going to magically reveal itself and everything's finally going to click into place. Or maybe you're a parent and you're constantly juggling responsibilities, and maybe you feel like you've lost touch with who you are beyond just like mom or dad. Maybe you're I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. Maybe you're an entrepreneur who started a business with this passion, but now feels disconnected from the original vision that they had because you're buried in those endless tasks and decisions. Or maybe you're just that employee who, is staring at the clock each day, feeling like just another replaceable part in that massive corporate machine. Now, I've been in all three of these categories, so I totally understand. And if it sounds familiar to you, like if that resonates with you at all, then today's message is for you. The truth about finding your calling is that you don't actually find it at all. All right, we're going to talk a lot about that. I want you to uncover that and be able to see how that will show up in your life. Now, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder. I'm the author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. It is an Amazon bestseller. It is just has tons of amazing 5-star reviews all over it. It's been absolutely selling like crazy. I'm going to put a link for you to go get this. It's $10 on Amazon. It absolutely is going to change your life. I see next to nothing of that. So this is no benefit to me. I want you to invest that $10 in yourself so that you can find your own gifts and superpowers. You can start living a more fulfilled life, having that joy and discovering your purpose and who you are. Like there's so many things that you're going to benefit from that. Now, if you're not ready to invest that $10, then I'll put a free resource down in the description as well. It's called The Giver's Roadmap. It also is going to help you unlock tons of things. So please pick one of the two and do it for yourself. Like invest just a little bit of time in helping yourself to discover how you can start living that more fulfilled life. Now, today we're tackling this, one of the biggest myths that are holding people back from living that more purpose-filled life. And that is the idea that your calling is something that you discover rather than something that you just develop through action. Because let's be honest, when you are stressed and overwhelmed and burnt out, like the last thing you feel is clarity about your purpose. And that's exactly why waiting for clarity before you take any action is going to keep you stuck. Like I know this territory so well because I spent years in a corporate job that just didn't align to my gifts and superpowers. Like feeling like I was just going through the motions, living in that giant sea of cubicles. And if you've been there before, you know what I'm talking about. Like I just kept waiting for the perfect moment of clarity before making a change, but that moment, it never came. And it never will. At least it didn't come to me in the way I expected. When I discovered instead, like what came to me was that purpose doesn't reveal itself through like contemplation and study. Like it emerges through experimentation, through trying new things and paying attention to what actually energizes you. So today I want to share with you the experimentation model and how you can take the principles from it, and it's going to help you to stop waiting and start creating meaningful work. Whether you're a parent feeling lost in your responsibilities, that entrepreneur who's disconnected from the vision, or the employee who's feeling trapped, these are going to help you to discover your calling through action. Now, before we dive into that, if you're new here, please hit subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. I would hate for you to miss out on any of the content that we have around, creating, discovering your gifts and superpowers, creating a more meaningful impact in your world. I'm going to also include in the description links to our other socials: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, or you can go to thegivermethod.com and there's all sorts of fun resources there, but I'll also have the book and the free resource. Like, it'll be awesome. So watch the video, go check out all the things that are going to be down in the description. So let's dive in. Let's get started with this idea as we move through these principles. The first one is like you have to break that cycle of waiting, because the most common mistake people make when they're like seeking out a calling, what they're trying to do is they're waiting for complete clarity before they take action. They believe that someday they're just going to have this grand epiphany that reveals their life's purpose. And it's never going to happen because like this waiting game, it actually prevents you from discovering what truly energizes and fulfills you. Your brain is wired to maintain status quo. Like we have neural pathways that we build and we just get used to that comfort that's there. So when you wait for perfect clarity, you're actually reinforcing this cycle that if inaction is going to keep you stuck. You're just going to stay in that motion. And the longer you wait, gosh, the harder it's going to become to move forward. Like, I don't know if you've ever felt paralyzed in this loop of overthinking without results. but you're putting yourself there. So what you want to do to break free from that sort of a cycle is to embrace what I call like clarity through action. So start by just identifying one area where you've been waiting for maybe certainty before moving forward. And then determine like what's the smallest possible step you could take in that direction. Something so small that it feels insignificant. Like, so as a parent, like this might be just dedicating a few minutes in the morning towards a passion project before the household wakes up. I love waking up early and getting things done before other people wake up. As an entrepreneur who's disconnected from purpose, it could be maybe talking to one customer about what truly like value they have for your business. As an employee, maybe it's having a cup of coffee with someone, in a role that interests you, that could excite you and get you to move forward. Whatever it is, make action like so small that your brain doesn't have time to generate any resistance. You could even adopt the Mel Robbins, rule of the 5-second rule, where you count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and when you hit 0, you just go, you just do it. Like don't worry about whether this tiny step will lead you to that ultimate calling. Like that's not the point yet. The goal is to simply just shift from waiting to doing something, get out of stagnation and into movement. You start creating these, a bank account of clarity where you start to document and journal and record the insights gained as you take any sort of small action. And over time, those are going to reveal patterns pointing you towards that higher calling, patterns that you couldn't see if you didn't take action. Like, because breaking that cycle, like I can't stress how important it is, because purpose and finding hope and purpose, like that gets revealed through the experience, not just through thought. When you take action, you gather that real world data, and it's going to energize you so much more. That concrete information is so much more valuable than any sort of contemplation and studying that you could do. Momentum doesn't just move you forward like externally, it shifts you into this alternative narrative from like, I'm waiting to find my purpose to like, I'm actively creating it. And that shift in your identity, it's going to break the cycle of stagnation for good so that you never fall back into it. Now, the second piece of that is that like you have to follow energy, not logic. Like you got to separate your Spock for a moment and separate the logic. When we are seeking your calling, like when you're looking for that, most people make decisions purely based on the logical factors: money, security, status, like what looks good on paper. I have to go to that school because a paper will say that I went to that school. Well, like considerations matter, like these sort of things, they do matter. Like they often lead people away from work that truly fulfills them. Like your calling isn't just what makes sense on paper. It's about like what makes you actually feel alive. Like energy is like one of the most reliable compass for you when you're navigating towards your purpose. We only have 3 currencies in life: time, energy, and money. And we use them in different ways. Energy is so important. I'm going to follow that in that sort of a way because it will create the things that I want. When you engage in those activities aligned with your calling, gosh, that boost of energy, it's just going to build you up rather than deplete you. And I don't know how depleted you felt in the activities you're doing. And so that little jolt of, espresso energy would be great if we can find it and it's built towards our purpose. So start paying deliberate attention to your energy patterns throughout the day. Like notice when you feel energized versus drained and depleted. Like it isn't about enjoying something in any ways. Like there are activities that are like, I just lose track of time, where like the challenge feels engaging rather than exhausting, and where you just feel that sense of flow. I love doing yard work. Yard work is one of my flow states, to the point where like I'm probably doing damage to my boys by not teaching them how to do these things. But like I get into a flow state and it energizes me for the week. And so whatever that thing may be for you, you just start doing it, and you keep an energy journal throughout the week where you rate, like scale activities you did from anywhere from like a -5 to a 5. And like -5 being like it's depleting you, it's draining you. A 5 being like this was the most amazing, energizing thing I could have done. And pay attention to which ones they are, because some tasks may surprise you. Things that you expected joy, but you didn't, like, or tasks that maybe you thought you disliked that actually you found really engaging. Like these show up in all sorts of ways depending on what role you're playing in life as a parent or an employee or an entrepreneur. Once you identify high activity, like high energy activities, like find the ways to do them more. Create more, situations where you can utilize those things to energize you. Because following your energy like is gosh, it's so important because it's that indicator of the alignment to your true gifts and your calling. When you when your mind can rationalize anything, but your energy, it doesn't lie. It doesn't tell lies. Like when you're consistently engaged in work that drains you, it's going to burn you out. It's inevitable no matter what. But when you switch that and you find the activities that energize you, you just accomplish more with less effort. Like energy compounds over time, and you create that positive cycle of energy that regenerates and continues to generate more and more, rather than a depletion cycle that many people have experienced. Now, the third thing is that you want to design low-risk experiments that you can go do. Most people, when they're searching for their calling and they find these things with energy, it's almost coming from this high-stakes position. They believe that they need these dramatic changes all at once. Like, I gotta quit my job, I gotta start this business, I gotta completely reinvent myself. And this all or nothing thinking that you could have there, it's so much pressure that usually ends up making people do nothing. The truth is that discovering your path, your calling, your purpose doesn't require a grand gesture or a complete upheaval of who you are. It happens through a series of slow, low-risk experiments that allow you to test ideas and gather the feedback from them. They become that bridge from where you are now to where you want to go. And it does it in ways that you're not making these grand choices that your brain has to chew on forever. So think about low-risk experiments. They solve any sort of dilemma that you may have, allowing you to explore them without requiring complete commitment. So start by just identifying areas of maybe curiosity, those areas that energize you. We talked about, what are the activities, what are skills or fields that you feel drawn to that maybe you haven't explored, and then what's the minimum viable experiment that you could do to test them, to even see how you feel about that. These are small and very time-limited tests that allow you to experiment something and then review the data without a major commitment. You think of it from a scientific approach. I'm going to have my clear hypothesis. I want to test and try this thing for this reason. I'm going to do it for a week, 2 weeks. I'm going to do it for just this morning, whatever. And what does success look like? How do I know if that's something I want? And then aim to run at least one experiment that you're trying to do at a time. Don't try to overload yourself. So it could be one a week, it could be one a month. Don't overload yourself. After each time you run one of those things, then reflect on what you learned and adjust the approach as you design what the next experiment is. And over time, these experiments start revealing all these patterns towards your calling. It's important to take this approach because it transforms the search for the calling from that high pressure decision to just a simple path that you can go down. It has lower stakes that you can do. This method is it overcomes any sort of the practical constraints that keep people stuck. You don't have to quit your job or neglect your family or risk your business to explore any sort of a new direction. Instead, just integrate these experiments into your current life, and they allow your calling to kind of emerge more organically alongside the responsibilities that you already have. That's going to lead us into our next principle, which is that you have to become I'm going to use Minecraft. You be a miner of your past. Many people approach finding their calling as if they're starting from scratch. They're just looking from the outside, trying to find themselves. However, the significant clues about your calling have been present throughout your entire life. You just need to know where to look. Your past experiences, particularly from before adult responsibilities narrowed your focus, they're going to contain these invaluable insights about your natural inclinations and genuine sources of fulfillment. So these activities that maybe captivated you as a child, or the subjects that you'd like to talk about endlessly as a teenager, the moments where you have felt the most alive as an adult, those are going to be the expressions of your authentic self. Before the signs of things before you let the practical concerns and things of the world start to shape your choices. Those patterns are going to reveal the essence of what your calling could be. So start by creating that sort of a maybe that passion timeline where you map out those activities, the interests and experiences you had, and go back as far as you can remember, and pay special attention to childhood and early adulthood before those major responsibilities took over. What did you lose track of time doing? What topics could you just talk about endlessly? What did you do? What didn't you feel it didn't feel like work to you in any way? It just felt effortless. There wasn't even a challenge. Maybe what did others recognize you for or come to you for? Those recurring themes start to form patterns for you through those specific activities. And so the next thing is identify maybe one element from your passion timeline that sparks interest. Maybe you've been neglecting it, and then create that small manageable way to reintroduce it into your life. Like as you mine your past, like you're gonna find your calling. It's not something foreign that you have to go look, like go discover this crazy thing. Like it's just reconnecting with the things that are already inside you. The flame is there. We just gotta find it and like put some kindling on it to get it to build up a little bit. You know, instead it's about becoming like more fully yourself and authentically yourself and honoring these natural inclinations that you've had all along. It's going to make developing your calling less about searching for something and more about returning to who you already are, which makes it even more energizing for you. Now, we talked about these small principles. So like the next one is like this idea of embracing that minimum viable move. Like it's the biggest barriers to developing any sort of thing like a calling is that people feel like that dramatic change all at once. And so we got to move past that. You end up stuck in the planning phase or endlessly preparing to make the perfect leap, but that never happens. You know, truth is that significant transformation, it doesn't happen in a single action. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't lose weight overnight. You have to work at it over time. You know, you don't get swole at the gym overnight. Like, you know, overnight successes and, you know, things like that in business, like it doesn't happen. Those aren't real. There were so many things that were put in motion in place to make those things happen. And it's especially relevant when, like, gosh, I'm a parent balancing my responsibilities or an entrepreneur. Like, I've got all these things I have to do. The minimal viable approach allows you to develop your calling alongside your current commitments. You don't have to change your whole life around to do that. So, once again, we go back to that idea of the smallest step you can take. And then what's that progression plan where you increase the moves each time and you build so they build on top of each other? You know, start with actions that are really minimal on time or energy or money or even risk, and then increase those commitments over time. You know, each small step is going to give you this valuable feedback and builds momentum for you. Like it really starts getting you moving forward. This method, it reduces any of the psychological barriers that we have against change. You know, it creates a more virtuous cycle that we have for ourselves, where we can build upon things more and more and more. Now, the next one is that you need to create before you consume. Because we live in this age of like, gosh, it's unprecedented information access. Like wherever you go, there are endless resources, like in every conceivable topic you could possibly think of. So let me just pause there and say, thank you for taking the time to watch this video and making that part of your world. But like, while there's so much content out there that can be valuable, it often leads towards sometimes research paralysis. Like the belief that you learn more, read more, prepare more, like you start taking action towards your calling. Like, let me give you a permission slip right now, because I've got another principle and a conclusion and some stuff at the end of this video, but take this as your permission slip to just stop watching this video right now and go do something about it. Take one of the principles we've already talked about and go do something. You will be way better off. And then come back and finish watching the video because, you know, we want good view time and everything. So, but people become perpetual students rather than practitioners. You know, this consumption habit, it, you know, can be this sophisticated form of procrastination. Like it feels like I'm being productive, but I'm actually staying stuck. So reverse the common order of operations and just commit to creating something before you consume. Like instead of waiting until you feel informed to take action, just start, do something, however imperfect it is, and then use some sort of a targeted learning system to improve what you're doing. You know, there's this idea of like the 50-50 rule where every hour you spend consuming information, reading or watching or learning, like you need to spend equal amount of time creating something based on what you already know. It's going to ensure that your learning translates into action rather than just becoming endless cycle of itself. Like when you prioritize action over preparation, you're going to gain that practical experience that no amount of research will ever provide you. And that hands-on learning reveals whether the direction truly resonates with you in practice or is maybe just a theory. You know, perhaps more importantly, like creation generates momentum where consumption often just creates that stagnation. So every time you create something, like whether it's a piece of writing or, you know, a business offering or a project for work, like you're building evidence of capabilities that you have and clarity about some sort of a direction. Now, our seventh principle, which I think is the last one, is what's that feedback ecosystem? We often struggle to see what's working well or maybe what we need to improve upon when we are doing self-reflection. Like as we're on that journey, many people sometimes feel it's a solitary endeavor. working through their thoughts and experiments without any sort of outside perspective. And without that feedback, we just get stuck in our own thought patterns, which sometimes can take us down negative paths. Like, a feedback ecosystem is deliberately created. Like, I'm going to cultivate a network of people or processes that, provide honest and constructive input about the progress, the actions, the experiments that I'm taking. It helps you to see the blind spots and recognize maybe strengths more clearly and refine the direction that you're going. So, like, maybe you need to get your feedback circle together. Like, who's the truth teller that just will tell me how it is? Who's the person that's the encouraged person that's just going to keep telling me to keep going? And who wants to experiment with me and try these new things? And who's a person similar to me and that maybe it's the person I want to try and serve, that I can take along that path and test things on as we go. Like, what are those structured opportunities where the feedback can lead to just a more general conversation? It doesn't have to be anything grand or crazy. That ecosystem, it provides these external perspectives that are impossible to create or generate on your own. It accelerates your growth by shortening your learning cycle rather than spending months or years going, in a direction that doesn't align with your gifts. Like, rather than like this regular feedback, it's about course corrections, pivots early on, and hopefully often, where you start seeing like that significant time and energy is helping me to develop my calling and move me down the path that I want to go. Now, as we wrap up these topics, these ideas, I want to emphasize to you that your calling isn't something that you find. It takes development through that consistent action and thoughtful experimentation. The path isn't about waiting for perfect clarity before you begin. It's about gaining clarity through the very act of moving. It's like these principles that we have, like, they're going to provide that framework for developing your calling, regardless of your current circumstances. They work whether you're a parent trying to balance those responsibilities, the entrepreneur feeling like, gosh, I already have a lot of things on my plate that I need to go and do, like, or I'm an employee or an entrepreneur searching for the meaning and the vision again and such. Like, the key, like, it's about just starting small, even when you don't feel like you're certain, or you don't have all the clarity, or you don't feel ready. Like, you don't need to make a dramatic change in your life or have anything like figured out as a part of the journey. Just start small and then pay attention to the path you go down and what's energizing you, and build on that momentum gradually. Your calling will emerge, not as a single moment of revelation, but through that series of experiments and actions and adjustments that you bring progressively. Like, each time it's going to take you progressively closer to the thing that feels meaningful and aligned with your gifts. Like, there's one thing I hope you take away from this entire video, is that you are so much closer to finding that calling and that passion and that purpose than you think. The very fact that you're seeking out information like this means that you're already started down that path. Now, gosh, let's stop consuming and be deliberate. Let's start taking action. Let's do these experiments that, move us forward rather than waiting for a perfect time and clarity to arrive. I'd love to hear which of these things maybe stood out the most to you, which resonated with you. Drop a comment, sharing your insights, or maybe a question. You can also email us at info@thegivermethod.com if you have questions or have additional things that you may need around this sort of a topic. And if you found it helpful, once again, hit subscribe, like this video, maybe share it with someone else who may need it. Again, down in the description, I'm going to include the link to the Giver Method book, as well as to the free resources you get access to. You can find us at thegivermethod.com if you need more info. Thank you again for joining me, and remember that your unique gifts, like, they're needed in the world right now. No one else has your combination of gifts and superpowers and can create as much change for people as you can based off what you're looking to do. So don't let that myth of finding your calling keep you hidden. Just start taking action, one small step at a time. And so until next time, I'm Jake Talbert. This is all part of the Giver Method. I hope that you keep growing and keep giving, and we will catch you in our next video. Have a great rest of your day.